I was muted. Anyways, welcome everybody. Good to have you here. Welcome back. Good to be here with you again tonight for episode number 28. The true story behind the movie To Catch a Killer. The story behind the John Wayne Gacy story. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Good evening, all of you. It's great to have you here. Good to be here with you once again, guys. Please make sure to hit the like button for me if you would. Share it out to everybody that you think would want to hear this story, guys, because it's a great one. Welcome, Robin Latham. Miss Daisy Dead's in chat. Mrs. M, good to see you back. Strike First, little brother, good to have you here. Miss Pamela, good to see you. Full Moon, and good having you back. Let's see. Miss Brandy, always happy to see you, darling. Thank you for joining us tonight. Miss Lena, good to have you here. Oh, my brother Mikey's always here. Good to have you here, Mike. Good to see you again, sir. And I think that's it for right now. Robin Latham, good to see you. Good to have you guys here. Yes, guys, tonight we are going over the true story behind the movie To Catch a Killer. Don't get it wrong, because there's a couple different versions of that movie that came out, but we're doing the one about Gacy, so yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely, Daisy, absolutely. Absolutely, Robin, no worries. And again, I'm glad to see you guys all back. We are definitely not going to have the crowd that we have in the early afternoon here for these, and that's okay. Not everybody's into this. It's just a nice little private thing we do where we tell some scary stories, or some true stories, I should say, to be honest with you. So welcome to all of you guys. Come on in here, grab your coffee, tea, whatever it may be. Maybe a little Pepsi and popcorn too. Come on in, sit down, have a conversation with me. Mama Bear said she might jump into chat. So be it. I'm just happy to be here with you all. Absolutely grateful. Again, for everybody that has not gotten this yet, but most of you guys already know, I just have to say it to say it. This channel is 100% crowdfunded. That's what keeps me coming to you guys on a daily basis to be able to do these things and spend this great time with you awesome people. I do post my links for Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. That money comes to me right away. You can also drop super chat, super stickers, which takes 30 to 60 days to get to me whenever YouTube wants to send it. So that does keep this channel up and running, guys. It keeps everything paid, the internet, the StreamYards, all the other bills that I got to do and deal with to take care of this stuff to keep me going. So I thank you all so very much for that, and for liking this channel, for sharing this channel. And at the end of this, please leave comments for me, guys. I greatly appreciate it, as does YouTube, to keep us in the algorithm. That's what makes things happen, folks. So right now we got 15 amazingly awesome people in here watching this with us. Come on, guys, share it out and hit the like button. Out of 15 people, I only got 7 likes. Come on, everybody, let's do this. Help me out here. And I hope this is entertaining to you guys tonight. I really do. This story's crazy. I watched both of the movies, guys. Oh, there's the links. Thank you, Miss Brandy. There's the links for Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App, folks. Again, if you would like to donate to support the channel, it is so very much appreciated. It helps to keep me coming to you guys every day. Every little bit adds up. If everybody donates just a little, it all turns into a lot, and it pays these bills, folks. So thank you once again. All right. Yes, the prices are absolutely insane at the grocery store. They really are. Come on in, folks. Get comfortable. For those of you that didn't know, the movie I was talking about came out in 1992, which blew my mind. Who they picked to play John Wayne Gacy at that point was Mr. Brian Dennehy. Whenever I see and hear Brian Dennehy's name, all I can think of is Cocoon and Tommy Boy. It's crazy. It does not fit for him to play a serial killer, but it's a great, great movie. I'm telling you. You guys will love it if you haven't seen it. Come on in, everybody. Get comfortable, please. pretty soon here, because we do have quite a few people that are linked up to the Discord now, I am going to kick off the movie night where we can all hang out together and watch a movie. So start working it up in your minds, guys. What movies you guys want to watch with us together, and we will see what we can do. When I start doing that, I may have to take this down to one night a week, which is, if that's okay with you, it's okay with me. We've done quite a bit of this, but we can still continue doing it. We may just turn this into that, with the movie night thing. I'm thinking that might be a good idea too, where we can watch the movies together, and then we can watch the true story on the other night, maybe. Full Moon says, thank you, Dago. Always watching, loving your channel. Thank you for sharing with us. Absolutely, Full Moon, and I am loving you guys as well. I appreciate you guys. I really do wholeheartedly enjoy what I do, coming out here with you guys and spending this time with you guys and bringing the things to you that I do, guys. I really am enjoying that in a lot of ways. That's the only way we're going to get Donnie Brasco. That's right, Mikey. We've been trying to get that one for 3 weeks now. We will get it. We will get it. We're going to do it, guys, because Donnie Brasco is, for those of you that haven't seen it, with Johnny Depp, Al Pacino, the greats, of course, is fully 100% based on a true story, guys. And it's a great movie. Great movie. I'm going to want to watch it again tonight. I would love to get you guys the real story, because there's a few more details in the real story that the movie didn't show. So, and not all true crime is based on serial killers and murderers and things like that. So, and we all know, if you've seen Donnie Brasco or Goodfellas, another one based on true stories, there's a lot of murdering that goes on in these movies, folks. So, it's still around the same realm. Thank you so much, Strike. I appreciate that, brother. Welcome, Pink. Good to have you. Thanks for joining us tonight. 23 awesome people in here, guys. Make sure you're hammering that like button. We only got 12 likes so far. That's not even half of who's in here. Come on, come on. I hope you guys do enjoy these when I do these, this series that I do. And, do me a favor, guys. I'm going to ask a quick question. Thank you, Miss Brandy. That's a fact. If you guys would like to incorporate the movie night thing into doing it like this and kind of putting the two together, throw me a 1 in the chat if you think that would be a good idea. And if not, put a 2 in there, because that would cut down some time for us. Plus, you guys know I am still trying to start my second channel, and I've not even had a chance to look into that, which is okay because I'm busy. But I need to make some time to do some things. I do want to do some streaming from outdoors this summer with you guys, if I can, depending if it's not too hot, of course. So a little bit of here and there. I see 1, 2, 3 people. Just the 3 of you guys. That's it. Miss Heather said she'll be here soon. All right. Give me a few minutes, guys. We're just waiting around for a few other peeps to jump in here. That's all. That's all we doing. Oh, buck up. Pretty soon here, I'm going to be moving this whole setup I got to the back and setting up a whole office and putting in my screen thing up, and we'll have the right backgrounds, and you guys don't have to look at my living room anymore and all that fun stuff. Trying to get it together the right way. The heat thing, I am not going to do it. I hate the heat, and I will continue to hate the heat. You can stay down in your hell Florida, and I will stay in my shitty ass Ohio where it does get cold, because I can deal with the cold. It's all good, my brother. I do not like the heat. I wanted to show you guys something because most of you that are in here are my originals, my regulars that have been with me for a long time. Even the new people, I'm glad to have you here, but I wanted to show some of you originals and regulars something, guys, that I am super, super appreciative of to all of you, every one of you guys, okay? Now, when I started doing true crime, folks, I was at 600, I think 600 or 650 subscribers, right? Yeah, it's about, I don't remember what month I started it in. I'm going to say like August, okay? Did you get an ad? Let me know if you guys are getting hammered with too many of them. What's up, Travis? Welcome. Good to see you. If you're getting too many ads, let me know and I can kill them, okay? So anyway, I had 600 when I started this. I've been doing this since February was a year. I started in a drama community. I didn't like it. I'm doing what I love right now, and I have the people here that I love. I just wanted to show you guys something. When I started this, I had 600 and something. Yeah, it was something like that when I started into true crime. And that's been since, it was August or September, Brandy, wasn't it? Somewhere around there, right? And we are now, and there's Heather. There is our darling Heather. Thank you for joining us, my dear. We are now into May, okay? And I have to show you guys this all happened within, well, let me see. Last Monday, I was at 1,400 subscribers. Okay. I think it was August. Yeah, you're right, Heather. Now, that, every time, that is where we are right now. That is absolutely amazing. And I owe every bit of this to you guys. And I love you guys for this. You guys have grown with me. You've grown this channel with me. Miss Heather and Brandy, Cece. You know, I gotta say, let's see, Miss Heather, Brandy, Cece, Mr. Popper, Strike First, of course, Mrs. M, have been with me for a long, long time. Mrs. M was even on the opposite end of the spectrum with me, but she was still around, okay? And that's something I'm super grateful for, too. And you guys have turned this into something very important to me and my family. And it always was, but it really shows the dedication that you guys have put to me as a person. You guys stuck around through all the crappy stuff and all the bad internet and the drama crap and the different people in and out of here that weren't not supposed to be here, all the problems that we've had, just everything. And you guys are still here. And there's a lot of you that aren't in here right now that I'm talking to. But I want to say that I love each and every one of you guys as my family. And it means more to me than I could ever explain to you guys that you guys did this. Okay? There's Cece. Thank you so much for being here, Cece, especially for what I'm saying right now, because you're a big part of that too. Most of the people I named that are in here, and I'm not putting anybody that's newer out. There's just a reason why I'm talking to just these people. You guys stuck through everything with me. Even when I didn't think I was going to be anything, if I didn't think I was going to grow anymore, I didn't think I was going to ever have anybody in here. When I was down on myself, when I said I'm just done, I'm going to quit multiple times, you guys kept me going. You guys brought me back to the surface and pulled me back up above water. And I can't ever thank you guys enough for that. And that's why I love each and every one of you guys like you are my family. And that goes for everybody that's in here, okay? But you people that I named, and you guys all know who you are, okay? You all know who has been with me since the beginning when I was nobody. So you guys, I can't describe to you the feeling that I have about this, okay? I'm very proud of this community, everybody that has come into it recently even. I'm very proud of this community and the people that you guys are and the way that we the way that we receive people and the way that we care for people and our each other. Okay, even each other. Um, and I'm very proud to say that this is our community, guys, and of all of you guys. So I thank you, each and every one of you, from the bottom of my heart, and know that I really truly mean that, guys. I really do. So thank you all very very much. And again, like I said, even the newer people, I've noticed the people that have come in and they just kind of latched on and they hung out and they stayed because they fit into that genre of people. You know, PW and looks like Stevie Irwin's been here almost every day since we've been doing this. All of you guys, you know, it's just you guys are amazing, and I really do love and appreciate each one of you guys. I really do. I'm new, so I second Dago's message. Y'all made a nice place here. Thank you, Stevie. I appreciate that. I do. We tried real hard to make it the right thing. You know what I'm saying? Yes, Brandy. You called me by my name. Oh, well, thank you, buddy. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, bud. Exactly. That was my dream from the beginning, guys. It was hard. It is not easy to go into the drama community and start off in a drama channel and make it drama free. Period. Welcome, Lori Wilhelm. It's good to have you here. Like I said, you know, Mrs. M's been around a long time, and we were on different ends of the spectrum. And I'm so grateful to have her here, and she knows that we've become very close. 1 second, folks. All right, guys. Sorry. We become very close too, and I'm very grateful to have her here. She's part of our family, and again, like I said, guys, some amazing things have happened over the period of time that I've been here, and that's all because of you guys. That's why I tell you guys, this is your channel. I just do all the typing and everything that goes with it. So it was. I have the best moderators in the world. We've had some shaky ground here and there, some miscommunication, but you guys are all here. When that tells me a whole lot. So I thank you all for every bit of what you guys have done. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Miss Heather. I appreciate that. I haven't even looked at that in a long time. I forgot I had that, to be honest with you. If anybody, most of what I have on there is equipment to help me with this. Because one of the big things I have on there is a desk. I need a new desk in a bad way because my desk is literally falling apart, folks. Um, that's one of the biggest things that I have on there. I completely forgot about that. So yeah, thank you, Mrs. M. I'm glad that you're here as well. I really am. I'm glad that we could change things from the way they were to the way they are. It means a lot to me. PW, Kaka, and I am glad to see you here as well, PW. Yeah, I forgot to even look at that in a long time. Thank you, Heather, for that. Good reminder. Um, well, the garage sales haven't really started around here, bud, but yeah, that's a good way to look. Jelly Bean, how are you? I need to get one that is the L shape. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like comes across and goes over. That way I have room for all this stuff. That's what I need to do. They're so damn expensive though. Everything on Amazon. Well, not everything, but like desks and stuff like that is it's crazy expensive. I will get it soon. I'm taken aback that have not acknowledged old busty mannequin. You're a trip. Is the desk even on here? Oh yeah, there's one on there, the L-shaped one. God, like I said, they are expensive. Both of them are. There's two of them. There's even a littler one. The littler one's more expensive. That makes no sense to me. Anyway, moving on. Those monitors, I need Yeah, I would love any one of those monitors too, because my monitors are itty bitty teeny weeny. They're old, like me. Need new stuff. What's up, Maiden? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's so relaxing here, no drama. Thank you, Full Moon. I do appreciate you. I'm very genuine. If you hang around long enough, you'll learn. Most of the people in here can tell you I am 100% genuine when I talk about things. I'm the same person in real life that I am in here. There's no fakeness. There's no nothing. I'm all real, and I wear my heart on my sleeve, sadly, sometimes. But that's okay. It's worth it to me because I love people and I love to help people. And I just love people in general. And I've met a really amazing group of people in here. So very happy with that. So welcome everybody. 29 amazing people in here, guys. If you haven't, please hit that like button. And we will get the show on the road. I've gabbed and blabbed enough. I can usually talk a little bit more, most recently in the evenings when I do this, and kind of express what I need to than I can during the day because it's been really busy. So, as you guys know, tomorrow we're kicking off, starting on a new case. The Oklahoma case is very bad, horrible. We're going to be jumping into that tomorrow at 12, between 12 and 12:30, and we're going to go into that hardcore. We're taking a little break from the Idaho scenario until something new pops, but we will go right back into it like we do, folks. Here up down the road, we're going to kick back up with the Summerwell stuff, and I am going to jump back into the Kylie Rodney case too, because there's been some things that have been said, talked about, and looked at in that case that we're going to go back, just like we did with Summer and like we just did with the Idaho case, and we're going to relook at the whole case, folks. Which one are you talking about, Mikey? The Kylie Rodney case? That one is gross. It's good to hear, Travis. I love Dan and Stevie. Those guys are some really good dudes. We're going to get together soon and do a thing together. But I appreciate you being here. Hopefully I get to do my DJ Dago stream is coming up here relatively soon for the month to give my mods a break and everybody a break and everything they're doing. That should be a good time. We do that once a month where I just sit back and kick up my shoes and we play some music and get down. It's always a good time. All right, Heather. Thank you, hon. By the way, again, guys, I am fully crowdfunded for anybody that may have recently jumped in. Welcome, Laughing Stop. Good to see you. And I just post these links for anybody that should feel generous enough to want to donate to support the channel to keep me coming to you guys. Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App is where it's at right there, folks. Thank you all to anybody that should choose to do that. And if you don't want to, it's no big deal, guys. I love you anyway. Great to have you here. Laughing Stock 32. Awesome people. Make sure to hit that like button, folks, so we can stay in the right algorithm. Again, tonight, guys, for those of you that haven't seen it, the movie is called To Catch a Killer. It is the true story behind the John Wayne Gacy story. I hope you guys are interested in knowing that. If you don't know it, do your dance. I might tip you up. Absolutely. If that's what it takes to keep my channel up, I will do what I got to do, Miss Brandy. You know that. You guys don't want to see me dance, though. I can promise you that. Kylie really got. Oh, me too, Mikey. I mean, you weren't in here at that time, Mike. I don't think when I was covering that one, but you can ask them. That kept me awake at night, bro. It literally kept me awake at night. It was crazy. Forgot about that, Daisy, huh? Yep. No, I haven't done it, but I promised you I would do it, and I will do it. Not that you guys are going to want to see it, but yeah, it really did. Daisy's right. It drove us insane, just as much as Summer did, and still does. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I was nuts over Kylie Rodney's case. It was crazy. I work right by where JWG's house used to be. He was working a main detective who is still on it. Oh, okay. Gotcha, Jilly. Gotcha. Thank you for joining us tonight, Jilly. It's great to have you here. I didn't figure, the people that we get during the day, we would have a full house like that. And that's okay with me, if we have a smaller crew in here, because it's more intimate to me. And we can talk more like this, Yeah, Miss Rachel, one of my, she helped me in the very beginning. She's a good friend of mine, one of my mods that comes in here every now and then. That happened out in her area too. She's around a lot of things, actually, to be honest. All right, so again, the movie's called To Catch a Killer. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a great movie. It's got Brian Dennehy, Margot Kidder, the woman that played Lois Lane in the Superman movies. Absolutely, Jilly. It's great to have you here. All right, guys, let's get this show on the road. Please tell me how the audio and all that stuff is tonight. I don't know what's been going on with my system. Truthfully, guys, I'll be honest with you. I need a new computer. That's where that problem lies. But at this time, we cannot do that. So, I just make do with what I can. But we will, when all this stuff goes through with my disability and all that, we'll be good. No worries, Mikey. No worries. All right, guys. Let me know how this sounds so that I know what to do to adjust everything, please. All right. This is the true story behind. And let me know if you can hear me okay, too, by the way. The John Wayne Gacy story, folks. Can you guys all hear everything okay? I got you, PW. Caw. Spring cleaning. It's that time of year. It is. Does it sound okay, folks? What you heard of it so far? Yep. Okay. Let me know if not. All right, guys, we're off.
Bodies buried under the house.
John acted like kids. He retained the power of life and death over them. Killing them was one of the ways he manifested that power.
John Wayne Gacy led two lives.
He was a clown, he was a precinct captain, he was active in politics. Everybody knew who John Gacy was.
He was probably the most notorious and most evil murderer in the United States this century.
Gacy had no conscience.
All he was doing is getting rid of human trash.
9 young men buried, 4 more in a river.
There was no doubt in our mind that John Gacy was not guilty by reason of insanity.
Was Gacy insane? Gacy told his story in tape recorded with his advice. Heard now for the first American Justice.
I do know that he's dead.
It was Christmas time, 1978, when TV screens across the country were filled with visions of horror. Investigators uncovered the remains of 29 young men buried underneath around the home of a 36-year-old building contractor in suburban Chicago named John Wayne Gacy. In addition to the bodies buried in his crawl space, Gacy confessed to having killed and disposed of at least 4 others in the nearby Des Plaines River. From 1972 through 1978, he had sexually assaulted, tortured, and killed the young men in the privacy of his home. He would handcuff, then strangle them to death. John Wayne Gacy Jr. was born on St. Patrick's Day, March 17, 1942, in Chicago. He was Marion and John Gacy's second child and only son. A year later, they had another daughter. By all accounts, the girls were adored by their father, a blue-collar factory worker. John Jr., on the other hand, was the brunt of his father's criticism and scorn.
He constantly talked about his father as being a Jekyll and Hyde personality. His father used to go downstairs and get raging drunk and scream and yell from the basement like some voice coming up through the air vents, and just terrorize Gacy in that way.
He said, my mother's the only one that really made my life bearable. And she told me the same thing. Mama says it's up to her usually to give John all the love because he never got any from his father.
His father wanted a tough and masculine son. Instead, John was soft. His behavior, even as a 10-year-old, enraged his father.
He was burying his mother's panties. He stole all of his mother's panties out of the drawer. He was making like little holes and burying his panties the same way he buried the bodies.
Yeah, I seen that interview too, Mikey. Thank you, Heather. I completely forgot about that. See, this is why I have you guys here, because I can't remember everything. Thank you, Heather, dear. I appreciate that. Again, guys, there is going to be some sensitive topics spoke about here. If anybody feels even the slight bit uncomfortable with it, please feel free to step away if you're not comfortable, and nobody will think any different of you. It is perfectly understandable, okay? Thank you, sis. I do appreciate that very, very much. But yeah, that interview was pretty cool about the guy that got away from him. The movie, guys, there's 2 movies I actually watched these again. Me and my wife did the other night. We watched the one with Brian Dennehy from '92, which is really good, and then we watched the one called Gacy that has the guy named Tubby from Pee Wee Herman. Great movie too. Both of them were great. What's up, Red? Good to see you, bro. Thanks for joining us tonight. Exactly, Mike. Hey, what do you guys see the things he did to get his victims? It's crazy. All right, moving on.
Years later,
Gacy struggled to please his father, but regardless how hard he tried, his efforts fell short. His mother, sisters, and friends supported him, but there was no substitute for his father's approval. As a teenager, tensions with his father peaked. In a fit of anger, the 19-year-old Gacy ran away from home, bound for Las Vegas.
Mama said he kissed me goodbye and said, I'm not coming home here anymore. And he didn't. He never did go back to the home anymore.
So what do you do? He got a job in a mortuary, in a funeral home. He lived with the dead people in the funeral home.
Gacy's stay in Las Vegas was short-lived. He returned to Chicago in less than 6 months, in the summer of 1961. Still determined to prove himself to his father through hard work, Gacy enrolled in a technical school to learn about business. Gacy's education paid off. He moved to Springfield, Illinois, on the management track for a shoe company. Success was finally within his reach. His ambition led him into local politics. He was an organizer of the state fair. He earned awards for his civic activities. Gacy married and had a child. In 1966, they moved to his wife's hometown of Waterloo, Iowa. Gacy began managing Kentucky Fried Chicken outlets owned by his father-in-law. Now Gacy's own father could be proud.
It was the first time that his father loved him and cared for him. I think it was in a peak of the goodness in Gacy, but occurred in Waterloo.
Gacy craved popularity and respect, so he became active in the business community, joining the Waterloo JCs. He aggressively recruited some new members. His methods were unique. He entertained them with stag films. In 1967, the JCs named him State Chaplain and Man of the Year.
He was one of my closest friends, and I was his closest friend. And he was a good guy. He worked hard for the JCs and did a lot of good things in the community of Waterloo, and it just seemed like he snapped somewhere.
In 1968, during Gacy's run for the JC's presidency, his reach for power was cut short. Friends were stunned when he was accused and convicted of sodomizing 2 teenage boys. On December 11th, he began serving a 10-year prison sentence.
It really threw me, and I didn't believe all during the time he was in prison the first time in Anamosa, Iowa, that he was guilty, and he professed his innocence to me through letters and conversations we had. He was a climber. He told me one day he wanted to be governor. And this kind of put the kibosh on everything and completely demoralized him. He was devastated.
Then Gacy's wife divorced him, and on Christmas Day, 1969, his father died. Gacy was furious when he was denied a prison pass to attend the funeral. Even in death, Gacy had disappointed his father. To regain control of his life, Gacy became a model inmate, a chef, and even started a prison chapter of the JCs, once again being named Man of the Year. In 1970, Gacy came up for parole. The prison psychiatrist warned against his release. He said Gacy was a psychopath, a sexual sadist who would be dangerous for the rest of his life. Still, Gacy was paroled, just 18 months into his sentence. On June 18, 1970, Charles Hill picked him up and brought him back to the hotel he managed in Waterloo.
I offered him a job as a cook because he was always a good cook, and I was going to try to help rehabilitate him. And unfortunately, he spent one night at the hotel after I brought him back from Anamosa, and the next morning his mom called and she was ill, so he went to Chicago, and so it never materialized where I could try to help him.
Serial killers present American justice with a dark mystery. Is it possible to understand the pattern of their behavior well enough to see how it foreshadows a killing spree? And when they kill, are they acting out of insanity or with criminal forethought? During Gacy's murder trial in 1980, the prosecution would contend that his activities were consistently rational, well thought out, that he was always in control. The defense would argue that Gacy's twisted relationship with his father laid the groundwork for his antisocial personality and his monstrous crimes, and that he could not be held responsible. The jury would decide. But one thing was certain. Had Gacy served his entire 10-year prison sentence in Iowa, he would have been released the day that his last victim disappeared. In 1970, John Wayne Gacy, the dutiful son, returned to Chicago to support his mother and start life over. He got a job as a chef and started his own business as a building contractor. He ran his company, PDM, Painting, Decorating, and Maintenance, out of the modest suburban home he bought for himself and his mother. But Gacy was leading a secret life. In 1971, he was arrested for disorderly conduct, the first in a string of run-ins he would have with the law. He said he'd done nothing wrong, and charges were dropped.
I asked him if he was staying out of trouble, and he says yes, he was. Said he had one little deal come up. He picked up some kid on one of the interstates there, and the guy made a pass at him, so he had to smack him in the mouth or something. And I believed it still.
Hello. Sorry, guys. There was a power flicker. I don't know what the hell happened. Power, it went out and back on. Somebody must have hit something. I don't know. Sorry, guys. Welcome back. Welcome back to me. Welcome, Gina. Larry, good to see you guys. Unravel, good to have you here. Good to see you all. And welcome. Sorry about that. I don't know what. Flick off, everything went back on. So, uno momento. Let me go back to where we were. My apologies, folks. Like I said, somebody either hit a pole or something happened, but it's flickered. Give me one moment to set everything back to where we were. My apologies. Come on, let's get back in there. All right, here we go. Almost there. It wasn't the internet this time. It was the actual power or flick like on and off. I don't know what it is. Don't curse me that way with the whole internet thing, bro. Don't do that. All right. Hold on a second, everybody. This should only take a moment here, hopefully.
The jury would decide. But on December 11th, he begins.
He was one of my closest friends, and I was his.
All right, I think we're right around where we need to be. Again, my apologies for all this crap. It's always something with me, isn't it? Okay. Yep. Yeah. Don't ask me why they're doing that, but whatever. Welcome, Lori Wilhelm. Again, if I didn't see you, I'm sorry. Everybody else that jumped in when I was out, welcome back. You're welcome. Good to see you. Thank you all for being here. And we're off. Welcome, Mama Bear. Good to see you. Let me make sure this has audio for you folks. And we are back in business. All right. Awesome.
Close friend. And a good guy. He worked hard for the JCs and did a lot of good things in the community of Waterloo. And it just seemed like he snapped somewhere.
In 1968, during Gacy's run for the JC's presidency, his reach for power was cut short. Friends were stunned when he was accused and convicted of sodomizing 2 teenage boys. On December 11th, he began serving a 10-year prison sentence.
It really threw me, and I didn't believe all during the time he was in prison the first time in Anamosa, Iowa, that he was guilty. And he professed his innocence to me through letters and conversations we had. He was a climber. He told me one day he wanted to be governor. And this kind of put the kibosh on everything and completely demoralized him. He was devastated.
Then Gacy's wife divorced him, and on Christmas Day, 1969, his father died. Gacy was furious when he was denied a prison pass to attend the funeral. Even in death, Gacy had disappointed his father. To regain control of his life, Gacy became a model inmate, a chef, and even started a prison chapter of the JCs, once again being named Man of the Year. In 1970, Gacy came up for parole. The prison psychiatrist warned against his release. He said Gacy was a psychopath, a sexual sadist who would be dangerous for the rest of his life. Still, Gacy was paroled just 18 months into his sentence. On June 18, 1970, Charles Hill picked him up and brought him back to the hotel he managed in Waterloo.
I offered him a job as a cook because he was always a good cook, and I was going to try to help rehabilitate him. And unfortunately, he spent one night at the hotel after I brought him back from Anamosa, and the next morning his mom called and she was ill, so he went to Chicago, and so it never materialized where I could try to help him.
Serial killers present American justice with a dark mystery. Is it possible to understand the pattern of their behavior well enough to see how it foreshadows
I
the
agree,
killing
laughing
spree?
stock.
And when they kill, are they acting out of insanity or with criminal forethought? During Gacy's murder trial in 1980, the prosecution would contend that his activities were consistently rational, well thought out, that he was always in control. The defense would argue that Gacy's twisted relationship with his father laid the groundwork for his antisocial personality and his monstrous crimes, and that he could not be held responsible. The jury would decide. But one thing was certain. Had Gacy served his entire 10-year prison sentence in Iowa, he would have been released the day that his last victim disappeared. In 1970, John Wayne Gacy, the dutiful son, returned to Chicago to support his mother and start life over. He got a job as a chef and started his own business as a building contractor. He ran his company, PDM, painting, decorating, and maintenance, out of the modest suburban home he bought for himself and his mother. But Gacy was leading a secret life. In 1971, he was arrested for disorderly conduct, the first in a string of run-ins he would have with the law. He said he'd done nothing wrong, and charges were dropped.
I asked him if he was staying out of trouble, and he said yes, he was. Said he had one little deal come up. He'd picked up some kid on one of the interstates there, and the guy made a pass at him, so he had to smack him in the mouth or something. And I believed it still.
Gacy even hid his activities from his new fiancée, Carol Hoff. Just 7 months before they were married, Gacy killed for the first time, while Carol was out of town in January 1972. He picked up a teenager after midnight at this bus terminal. Years later, in taped interviews with his attorneys, Gacy would say he had killed in self-defense. The interviews are played publicly for the first time.
I said, well, if you want to start cruising around, right? I believe I've been blown by a guy, and didn't seem to think there was anything wrong with it. Came out to my house. We both got into oral population. After it was over, I think I just fell off asleep. I woke up and I seen him coming in the room, and well, when I fell out of bed, so I knocked him off. While I was dressing, I was flying upstairs. And that's what made me mad. Because I took the knife, I think I stabbed him in the chest 4 or 5 times. I think after the first or second stab, all you could hear was the gargling of blood in his lungs or something. I don't know.
Gacy dragged the body to the crawl space, left it there, and buried it a few days later. No one knew about the death. Then a month before Gacy and Carol got married, Gacy was arrested for aggravated battery and reckless conduct after a young man said Gacy assaulted him. Once again, charges were dropped. His secrets were safe. Gacy's new wife and her 2 children moved into the house he shared with his mother. By all appearances, Gacy led a normal life, responsible businessman, good husband, and well-liked neighbor who hosted lots of themed parties. He dressed up as Pogo the Clown for charitable events and was active in local politics, running the Polish Constitution Day Parade, and even having his picture taken with then First Lady Rosalind Carter. But secretly, a pattern of brutal sexual assault and murder developed. Gacy would later say he didn't kill again until 1974. The killings escalated in 1976 after he and Carol got divorced. Once on his own, Gacy was on the prowl, looking for relationships. He favored teenagers, usually with light-colored hair, thin, smaller than he was. He cruised around in a dark sedan that looked like an unmarked police car. Sometimes he paid male prostitutes for sex, but he also liked straight young men. Gacy would fly.
You definitely can, Daisy, and that was a big problem he had. His house smelled horrible. I mean, it was bad, really bad. His neighbors, anybody that showed up there would smell it and this and that. He was constantly dumping lime, as I'm sure they'll tell. But yeah, it was a bad thing, and the smell was horrifying. I was born in 74, so yeah, I get it. Also waiting to see if the jury comes back in the Lori Daybell case. Absolutely, Gina. That's been rolling like regular.
Flash a badge at him. Believing he was a cop, they'd get in his car and be abducted.
Gacy was not a big, mean kind of guy. Gacy was a con artist. He was kind of he was short and kind of chubby, almost like a Santa Claus looking type guy, and he would con these kids into going with him, and he would con these kids into killing them.
Gacy would take his victims home. He'd get them high with alcohol and marijuana. Then he'd tell them he dressed up as a clown for charity events and ask if they wanted to see some of his tricks with handcuffs and ropes. Once they were in restraints, he'd strangle them to death. Gacy's nighttime behavior was a stark contrast to his daily life as a responsible building contractor and sociable neighbor. His family and friends trusted him. They didn't know he was a sexual hunter who used his construction skills to hide his crimes. He built a barbecue pit over the grave where he buried one of his victims. His parties were on top of his private cemetery. Gacy's deadly appetite claimed the lives of some of his employees. No one suspected Gacy when their parents reported them missing. The boys were presumed to be runaways. Gacy, in his later conversations with lawyers, showed no concern.
Monday or Tuesday, his mother had called up about him disappearing, and then the police called, and then his girlfriend called. And in fact, his girlfriend.
You know, it's funny you said that, PW, because he told a detective one time that asked him about being a clown. He told the detective, he said clowns could get away with murder. How about that?
Coming over. And I had stated that I hadn't seen him since Thursday.
His regularity, he tortured and let some of his victims go. 2 of them went to the police, but the cops didn't check into Gacy's past. As a result, Gacy's murders went undetected for 6 years. Then, in 1978, 15-year-old Robert Peast, a popular honor student and gymnast, disappeared. On the night of December 11th, Peast was working in a suburban drugstore. His mother came to pick him up to celebrate her birthday. He told her to wait. He wanted to talk to a man outside about a summer construction job. The man was John Gacy. Rob Peast never returned.
The very next morning, one of the police officers had come over to the state's attorney's office and said, I have something here that just doesn't seem to fit. And the parents are very concerned that this is going to be washed under the rug and that their son is just going to be dubbed a runaway.
When police learned that Rob Peast was last seen talking to Gacy, they went to question him. It was 9 p.m. Gacy was arrogant and acted annoyed. He claimed to know nothing about Peast, but agreed to talk more, saying he'd meet investigators later at the police station. He didn't show up until 3:30 in the morning, and when he did, he was covered in mud. Gacy had just finished dragging Peast's body through a muddy area and throwing him off a bridge into the Des Plaines River. The mud made the police suspicious. They did a background check on Gacy and found out about his criminal record for sodomy in Iowa, so they kept Gacy in custody for a short time. The police got a search warrant to check Gacy's house for any evidence linking him to Rob Peast.
Welcome,
and after a search
Jennifer.
warrant, they found some belongings that were tied to former missing person, some identification, some other type property, a TV, jewelry.
So they brought back handcuffs, certain knives, and a whole collection of badges that Gacy had.
They also found pornographic literature, sexual devices, and a rope with human hair still attached to it. Officers took a quick look in the crawl space. Nothing too unusual, they thought. The ground was bumpy and covered with lime. When Gacy, who was a fastidious housekeeper, got home from the police station, the crawl space was one of the first things he checked.
He took a flashlight, went down there, was complaining about the fact that somebody had been in the crawl space and tracked dirt on his floor.
Police were assigned to keep Gacy under 24-hour surveillance. Investigators were stunned to discover that many of the recovered items belonged to Gacy's former employees who were missing, and other young men thought to be runaways.
We started all of a sudden to have big bells ringing in our heads and shivers really going up our spines, saying, my God, what really do we have here?
Then a breakthrough. Police found a critical piece of evidence in Gacy's garbage, a photo receipt that had been in Rob Peast's jacket pocket, still not enough to arrest him for murder.
It became more apparent that this guy was a murderer. And there was a time that you just wanted to almost take justice in your own hands, but you had to be so cognizant of what you were doing. You couldn't violate his rights at all.
Gacy wanted to shake his newfound ends. He hired attorney Sam Amirante to draw up a harassment complaint. Amirante went to the cops to try and get them off Gacy's back.
I said, you have the wrong guy here. You know, Gacy is he's not a criminal. He's not a child abductor, and he probably was in the wrong place at the wrong time. You're looking in the wrong place until things began to develop differently.
Gacy taunted the surveillance cops. He led them on high-speed drives to nowhere until dawn. During the day, he'd buy them meals and drinks, brag about his connections. Then one night, he invited them home for dinner.
One of the guys under surveillance went into the washroom over the old portion of the house above this crawl space that he kicked on, and a strong odor came from underneath it, which reminded him of the morgue, which is a very distinctive type odor that you'll never forget.
Gacy explained that there was a sewage problem, but the cops weren't sure. They kept tailing Gacy. The pressure got to him. At 11 p.m. on December 20th, 1978, about a week and a half after Rob Peace had vanished, Gacy phoned his attorneys and insisted he had to talk to them right away. When Gacy showed up, his lawyer was angry and threw down a newspaper with Peace's picture on it.
I said, look at him. Do you have anything to do with this kid being missing? And all of a sudden he changed and looks at the picture. He goes, that kid is dead. He said, the kid in this picture, he said, that's not the boy that was in a drugstore, but this boy is dead.
With those words, the floodgates opened. Gacy described in hideous detail how he tortured and forced sex on his unwilling victims. He admitted to killing more than 30 young men. His monologue went on for 4 hours.
Right in my eye. He says, I've been the judge, jury, and executioner of many, many people. Now I want to be my own judge, jury, and executioner. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, this boy is in the Des Plaines River. And I was just dumbfounded at that point. And with that, he went into this long dissertation describing in detail each murder he committed.
Gacy's attorneys wanted to get him committed to a psychiatric unit immediately, but Gacy refused.
During the course of his conversation, he told me if he didn't end it, it was going to happen again. And he didn't feel anything about it. He didn't feel guilt. He didn't feel remorse. He didn't feel bad.
After his all-night session, Gacy raced out of his lawyer's office. Restricted by attorney-client privilege, the lawyers kept Gacy's confession a secret, but they implored the officers following him to stay close on his tail. Just a few hours later, the police witnessed Gacy leaving a bag of marijuana at this gas station. They arrested him on a drug charge. With Gacy safely behind bars at last, the police obtained a second search warrant and returned to his house. They took a closer look in the crawl space. This time, they found human remains. John Wayne Gacy was charged with murder. Sadistic killers like Gacy typically depersonalize their victims. They see them not as people, but as objects who deserve to be punished and killed. Their methods improve as time goes on. Gacy learned to kill and cover up his crimes. As prosecutors built their case, they uncovered a gruesome wealth of facts. The challenge was to choose which ones would make the strongest case for the jury. Gacy's arrest on December 21st, 1978 was big news. The many people who knew him were stunned.
I was driving to Marshalltown, Iowa. I was in disbelief when I first heard the news. They mentioned 3 bodies had been removed from his house, and I almost fell out of the car.
Then the next shock. Gacy wanted to confess. He summoned his lawyers to the jail. They pleaded with him not to talk to the police. Gacy ignored them. He told his attorneys they worked for him and to do what he told them to.
He set a juggernaut in motion, and the lawyers really couldn't do anything about it at that point in time.
On his first night in the Des Plaines lockup, Gacy took center stage. An audience of prosecutors, defense attorneys, and police took notes while Gacy confessed to a litany of crimes.
When we sat down with him, I don't know that there was any idea that we would be sitting down there for as long as we did, and Gacy would be talking as long as he did.
The police took down Gacy's words. I want to clear the air. I know the game is over. The lime was used to cover the smell. The bodies down there have been there a long time. There is more bodies off the property.
He then agreed to draw a little map of where all the bodies were buried in the crawl space. And I'm assuming he did that hoping that there wouldn't be a lot of damage done to his house.
And he drew a diagram of where the bodies would be, saying there's a trench here under the kitchen, and there are 5 bodies in that trench stacked end to end, 3 on one side, 2 on the other.
Gacy was accurate on nearly every detail. The crawl space was treated like an archaeological dig.
Every measurement was cataloged almost to the inch as to where each victim was and what position, the head in this direction, the feet in that direction, and so on.
The number of bodies found today are 6. Bringing the total to 21.
As the investigation unfolded, more bodies were discovered. Personal effects, clothing, a driver's license were linked to young men reported missing. That was the case with 19-year-old John Mowry. In September 1977, he had visited his parents and talked about getting into construction. When his parents couldn't reach him the next day, they went to the police. The police figured Mowry was a runaway.
He had his own apartment, and he was going to college part-time and had a job. And I said, what was there to run away from? Had they listened to our pleas, and had they taken down more info about these boys, there probably would not have been 33 or God knows how many more murders.
2 days after Gacy's arrest, John Mowry's body was identified through dental records. Meanwhile, Gacy began claiming that an alter ego had committed the crimes. He was setting the stage for an insanity defense.
He knew he wasn't going to go anywhere. He knew we had found remains. And this was his way to save his life, was to be able to say, haha, I'm just going to tell them that the other side of me was the one who did this. I'm nuts. And I'm not going to let some lawyer stop me from talking.
Through the bars of his cell, Gacy demonstrated on a prosecutor's wrist his favorite killing method, which he called the rope trick.
He stuck his arm in there, and Gacy wrapped this rosary around to show him how he made the rope for the victims and how he strangled them to the point where these victims had no chance of surviving.
At this point, a new attorney, Bob Mata, joined Sam Amarante to represent Gacy. Facing a mountain of incriminating evidence, they finally convinced Gacy that it was in his best interest to talk only to them, not the police. In preparation for trial, they tape-recorded their sessions with him, never played in public until now. Gacy blamed the crimes on his victims.
There's not one of them that didn't die that I'm aware of that didn't die through their own hands or through their own wrongdoing. If you want to say that I tempted them, I put them in temptation, yes. The ones that were killed with threats of violence or blackmail or shit like that.
He told us everything. He told us everything that he could recall with respect to his involvement sexually and with respect to the killings.
He put the handcuffs on himself. And then I, of course, found it further him getting blown, and he didn't like the idea. And then he was scared that he was going to get killed. How was he killed? Maybe like the rope trick.
Then, after that, he would tell us how he managed to hide the bodies, because some of this was going on, incredibly as it may seem, with his second wife and his mother living in the house at the time.
That is something that has always amazed me, you guys, that he did this stuff right around his family, his wife, his stepdaughters, his mother, like right around him. And they never even caught on. His second wife, she caught on to that he was into boys per se, and you know that's why she divorced him. But can you imagine like living in a house with people and like this is going on around you, and you find out the fact afterwards? Like, wow, that's all I could say. Cece says he took pride on the way how he, yeah, absolutely. It was Bozo, not me. Trust. Yeah, right. Pogo the clown. I used to ask people if they were interested in being his patches, which was his like the side, you know, his partner clown or whatever you call that. I can't think of the right word. There's a word for it, but anyway. And that was how he would get them, because they would ask how much did that person, how much does patches make, and blah blah blah. I mean, I can never get past the fact that he did this around his family, his mother, his wife, the girls. It was doing this all around them when they were sleeping in the house. He would move bodies around while they were there watching TV. It just blows my mind, the gall that you got to have to do this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy, guys.
Gacy didn't care about what he'd done. He didn't want to be bothered with it.
And we had drank and we had smoked and stuff, and we were talking about sex. And he agreed to get into it, because we got into it right in the living room.
Mutual?
Not at first.
But after that?
Again, I don't remember. I believe I did kill him. I think he was strangled.
What was your initial emotional response?
Just to tone down the crawl space. Get rid of it. Even once you bury somebody, it was already gone. Once they weren't at the ground, they weren't my problem. But there was no feeling. I don't believe I killed anybody, but yet I know I did.
Gacy's lawyers believed that he was unable to accept his own homosexual behavior. That once he had sex with a male partner, his shame and rage overwhelmed him.
He got involved in a situation, he would kill, and he killed over and over and over again.
For months after.
On the psychological aspect of this, guys, just say, like, you know, when I read this about him, he used to say, quote unquote, I hate homos and stuff like that. Never would claim that he had homosexual tendencies or anything like that. In fact, when he would start to act out any homosexual tendencies, he would get angrier at himself and take it out on his victims. It was insane. And that's the whole psychological background to it. You know what I mean? That's kind of it in a sense, PW, a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly, CC. Exactly.
After Gacy's arrest, bodies were still being discovered. When one was found under the floorboards of his dining room, Gacy couldn't explain it.
Here's the part that I don't know. It is speculation on my point. Could have been that I went out on this Friday night, brought somebody back home, put him down in there. I don't know. I'm only speculating. I don't know.
Gacy didn't see why anyone should care about his victims. He said they were trash.
Well, I remember there was a little guy who got into sexual things, and he wanted to get into bondage sex and stuff like that. But that was in November, but I don't know who the hell he was. He was a little shitty guy, a little short guy with curly hair. I think he was Italian, but I'm not sure.
While Gacy waited for trial, his house, stripped clean in the search for evidence, was demolished. Rob Heast's jacket was found hidden in a wall. Still, Gacy thought he would find a way to beat the rep.
What if? He would always pose it as a question. What if I was out of town?
I don't understand how the hell there could be 30 people buried in the house. I don't understand. I don't, like I said again, if somebody come out and lost the goddamn much, I was never home.
But Gacy simply could not explain away all those bodies under his house.
He never thought he was going to get caught. As a matter of fact, that's probably why he went on and on and on as long as he did. He probably thought he was invincible after a while. He'd never get caught.
Insanity was Gacy's only defense. His lawyers had no choice but to acknowledge the enormity of Gacy's crimes. But in a classic use of the insanity defense, they planned to argue that the sheer number of murders was proof of insanity, that once he started killing, Gacy lost all control. At the end of April 1979, John Wayne Gacy had been charged with the murders of 33 young men, all between the ages of 14 and 22. From the outset, the state demanded the death penalty. The defense, facing overwhelming evidence of guilt, decided to seek a not guilty verdict by reason of insanity and have Gacy institutionalized for life.
I wouldn't have wanted him out in the street. I believe he would have killed again. I thought that it was a matter of being able to get people from every walk of life to forget their desire for vindication and put him in a mental institution.
The first decision prosecutors had to make was how to try Gacy for 33 individual murders or as one single case. Trying all the murder cases as one would show the enormity of the crimes. But if Gacy was acquitted, he could never again be tried for any of the murders. Because of pretrial publicity, the defense requested a change of venue. But rather than incur the expense of moving the entire trial to another community, the judge decided it was wiser to choose a jury outside the city and bring them back to Chicago.
Everyone had the impression that if Gacy himself had come to the jury, he probably would have been selected as a juror and probably would have been the foreman.
In opening arguments on February, villain and killer who knew what he was doing. They implored the jury to make sure that he not be allowed to walk free.
One of the things that was important to us were to make the victims people, not just this chain of bodies.
For the first 2 days of the trial, a parade of the victims' families, friends, and loved ones took the stand. Their names and pictures were displayed in slots on a giant board that came to be known as the Gallery of Grief. The courtroom was charged with memories of the dead.
I was only at the trial one day. I couldn't cope with it any longer. If I was there, there would have been a mistrial because I could not have sat through it and looked at that monster looking back at me, because I went through it for just a couple minutes and I passed out on the witness stand. It was too much to handle.
Next came the forensic evidence.
One of the things that we needed to convey in order to maintain the credibility of our case was the integrity of the evidence recovery process. And in order to do that, we had to depict the digging as a well thought out, orderly process rather than just a bunch of guys with shovels down in the crawl space.
The jury saw photographs of markers where the bodies were unearthed. The diagram Gacy made for the police of where the bodies were buried was enlarged and compared with a clear overlay of where they were found. The maps were very nearly identical.
The jurors told us later, once you put that diagram up next to the plat of how the bodies were found, you guys could have stopped right there. They were impressed by the fact that before the digging even began, Gacy was able to remember where the bodies were.
And then there were pictures of the condition of some of the victims.
And here's the horror of the scene in one photograph, but loaded with probative value. Anybody want to argue about the cause of death? The rope's still there. You want to argue about who did it? This is the guy that told us about the 3 dots. How he did it, what was the manner of death, it's all there.
The state's case was meant to show Gacy's meticulous planning and therefore his sanity. The defense never disputed the physical evidence. Gacy's lawyers acknowledged that the bodies were found under his house.
What became more important than the actual physical evidence was, putting people on the witness stand who interacted with him, who could testify that he was, in fact, a very normal individual on a day-to-day basis.
One of those witnesses was Gacy's old friend from Waterloo, Iowa, Charles Hill.
Some of the questions that they asked was John a good promoter? Was he a conniver? Could he get people? Could he manipulate people? And certainly he did that a lot when he was in the JCs and Waterloo. In fact, most of the things I said about him were positive things, but the prosecution was using those things to show that he could manipulate all those young men.
Gacy smiled and winked at his friend when he was on the stand. At the end of the day, Gacy told his attorneys to have Hill stop by his holding cell.
Charlie, he said, I don't remember killing all those people, but I must have, because they found them in my house and in the crawl.
It was not only the faces of the dead who stared out at Gacy at the defense table. Several young men who had been sexually assaulted by Gacy but had survived testified as well. Their stories strengthened the prosecution's argument that Gacy's actions were cunning and deliberate. The prosecution insisted that Gacy had proved his own sanity by leading an outwardly normal life while all the time he was killing innocent young men. For its part,
See, I think that part, Red, that I think that was bull. You know what I mean? I think that was bullshit that he was claiming that to go along with his insanity thing, truthfully. But yeah, he that was crazy. Completely crazy.
the defense tried its best to prove otherwise, but consensus among the psychiatrists favored the prosecution.
I think that Gacy was probably one of the most, to me, one of the most fearful human beings I'd ever seen. I didn't think he was insane. I concluded that he did not have a major psychiatric disease.
One of the conditions that would fit within the legal definition of insanity was a so-called mental defect. The defense argued that Gacy had just such a defect, and that was why he could not conform his conduct to the requirements of the law.
And when he picked people up, his intention at that point in time was not to kill. His intention was to have a relationship with the individual. And then after that, he became so enraged with himself that he struck out and killed the object of his hatred. And he did it repeatedly.
The defense admitted to the jury that Gacy knew the difference between right and wrong. His illness was that he couldn't control himself. The prosecution scoffed at this argument.
They did it at 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning in the privacy and dark of his own home.
They did say that they were tearing the house down, that it got torn down while he was still, before he even went through everything. So I don't know. That's weird. Unless they're talking about his childhood home, that could be the one they're talking about. The house that he bought, lived in, that had all the bodies under it. They did tear that down. I remember that and reading that too. But I think they're talking about the home he grew up in. Is the one that got sold. Anyway, sorry.
He didn't do it out on the street where him.
I'd never talked to a person like this before. And his justification for what he did, I mean, all he was doing is getting rid of human trash. I'd never talked to anyone that could just sit there and look me in the eye and say something like that without any sense of remorse. It was chilling.
Just as chilling was a passing comment during the testimony of one of the psychiatrists.
Dr. James Kavanaugh was testifying on cross-examination, and he made a comment that John Gacy, if he was released to a mental institution and he was found not guilty by reason of insanity, that he could be released tomorrow.
It was an unlikely scenario, but strictly speaking, not impossible. The defense, realizing this was a terrifying prospect to the jurors, objected and called for a mistrial. Their motion was denied, but the jury was instructed to disregard the testimony. Yet in all likelihood, the thought of freeing Gacy probably never left the jurors' minds. In the end, the prosecution and defense psychiatrists canceled each other out.
I think jurors sit back and they say, look, based on this evidence, do I think this person is insane or don't I think that's insane? And I don't think they pay as much attention to the experts in an insanity defense as the lawyers think they do.
In closing arguments, the state refilled the so-called gallery of grief with photos of the dead, and they called Gacy the worst of all murderers.
And I said, if you want to show this defendant mercy, then I just stopped in mid-sentence, went over to the board, and sort of ripped each picture out of the frame. I walked back in front of the very front row of the jury, the crawl space behind me to the right, and I said, if you want to show this man over here mercy, you show him the same mercy that he showed when he took these 22 lives off the face of the earth and put them here. And I just threw them in a crawl space. Walked away. It was dead silence.
In their closing argument, the defense characterized Gacy as a Jekyll and Hyde personality who should be studied in a hospital. The jury didn't agree.
He actually was pretty sensible. He wasn't insane, and he carried these things out systematically. So the jury pretty much decided that he was guilty.
The jury returned the verdict quickly. In just under 2 hours, Gacy was found guilty of 33 counts of murder. It was a verdict the defense half expected.
They would think, we have to get rid of him. We have to excise him from society. We want him out of our midst. We can't admit that a human being can sink to that level. It's like looking into the abyss. We don't want to see what's down there because it could reflect us.
Once the jury found Gacy guilty, they were instructed on the death penalty, which had been reinstated in Illinois while Gacy was still on his killing spree. He qualified for the death penalty in 12 of the 33 murders. It took the jury another 2 hours to decide that Gacy should be executed. When the sentence was delivered, there was a cheer from the victims' families who filled the back of the courtroom.
John Gacy sat motionless and didn't visibly react. He showed no remorse. Instead, he consoled his attorneys,
saying they did a fine job. He even called the prosecution to his holding cell to congratulate them.
Yeah,
Gacy still believed he'd find a way to turn things around so he could control the outcome. And in fact, the case of John Wayne Gacy would not conclude for another 14 years. John Wayne Gacy had been sentenced to death. According to Illinois law, a death sentence is automatically appealed. By the time the case moves through the state and federal courts, it is often years before a sentence is carried out. Gacy had a succession of appointed appellate attorneys. None of them believed Gacy's conviction would be overturned, but they fought to reverse the death penalty. They combed the 18,000-page trial transcript for procedural error or constitutional violations. The first step alone took 2 years, an almost unheard-of delay. From the start, they felt they were fighting a losing battle.
John Wayne Gacy was one of the most unpopular men in the history of the country, let alone Illinois alone. And there are many judges who have their careers on the line when they make decisions on the state court level in particular. And I didn't believe that anyone was going to give him a fair shake.
Both the Illinois and U.S. Supreme Courts upheld Gacy's sentence. But as his standard, especially in death penalty cases, Gacy's appellate attorneys fought on, arguing that Gacy's trial attorneys had not done their job properly.
We contended that Gacy was denied effective assistance of trial counsel. And I might say right now, because I know the trial lawyers, it sort of goes with the territory. When you're trying to save somebody's life, really anything goes.
Richard Kling represented Gacy for nearly 3.5 years. He argued that during the penalty phase of the trial, character witnesses should have been called back to testify that Gacy deserved a new sentence hearing.
I was convinced that on the record I had, at least his death sentence should have been reversed. And I'm convinced of that to this day.
The state and U.S. Supreme Courts disagreed. Next, Gacy's attorneys tried to argue that Judge Garippo's death sentence instructions to the jury were not clear. The prosecution disputed this and said the jury understood.
They never sent out a note saying that they were confused, which many juries will do if they are confused by the instructions. And the arguments of counsel, both the prosecutor and the defense, certainly made clear that it only took one person. As a matter of fact, Mr. Amirani's closing arguments dwelt upon that at length, that it only takes one of you to prevent the imposition of the death penalty.
But again, a federal court upheld the death sentence. Meanwhile, Gacy outraged the victims' families by capitalizing on his notoriety. He declared his innocence. He said he had no idea who did the killings or how the bodies got under his house. He grimly joked that the only offense of which he was guilty was running a cemetery without a license. The condemned man kept up a rigorous correspondence with hundreds of people. He pleaded his case to the curious. He took up painting and sold his works through the mail, earning thousands of dollars. The years went by. The families of his victims knew the appeals process would take time, but didn't always understand it.
I thought that he thought he was going to be free. My one fear was that I thought we were going to have to go to trial all over again. I thought that they were going to find something to make this a mistrial. And was that scary?
Gacy's execution was repeatedly postponed. In 1993, when he had last realized his death sentence might not be commuted to life in prison, Gacy was somehow able to set up his own 900 phone line. Supporters could call and listen to his recorded claims of innocence and pleas for survival.
A part of his sickness was his ability to deny things that he did. He had two lives. One was this evil, cruel, horrific murderer, and the other was this sane, calm, responsible, hardworking adult. And he went from one world to the next, but his ability to deny what he did just probably helped him cope.
Karen Conti and Greg Adamski, active opponents of the death penalty, were among 4 attorneys who represented Gacy during his final death row appeals.
People were just bound and determined that the man was going to die, and they were going to give him every procedure that he was entitled to, but there was going to be no substance to any of the procedures, and that's basically what happened.
He was what we call the poster child for the death penalty. Let's get him gone, let's get him out of here, and then let's let the system be greased so everyone else can step through it as quickly as Gacy.
After 14 years of legal wrangling, Gacy's execution date was set for May 10th, 1994, but his lawyers still didn't give up. They challenged the humanity of the lethal injection system. They raised medical issues to no avail. In a final statement, Gacy said he was the 34th victim. Just after midnight on the 10th of May, John Wayne Gacy was put to death.
I saw his family, or neighbors, people who had known him his whole life, sobbing uncontrollably, who were just grieving horribly. And I realized at that moment that these people are certainly capable of unconditional love for John Gacy. To others, he was a horrific murderer, but these people knew him in a totally different light and grieved for him.
Gacy ended his life with no apologies and no remorse.
He was a very crafty guy, but a crafty guy was really his undoing.
He believed that he would prevail, and up until the very end, when he was executed, he didn't believe he was going to die.
He was a good crowd man. There's no question about that. That's what made him dangerous.
As the day of Gacy's execution approached, he seemed to have held on to the belief that somehow he would find a way to avoid his punishment. Even if his attorneys didn't have the answer, he did. He was figuring it out and could not be bothered. On the afternoon of May 9th, 1994, hours before he was to die, Gacy was in his cell, talking to his lawyers and busily writing notes. At around 11:15 p.m., with 45 minutes left to live, one of the defense lawyers called Gacy to ask how he was doing. The call was a formality. Under Illinois law, the defense gets one final chance to check on the mental state of a condemned individual. Given Gacy's tenuous hold on reality, it's not clear whether he understood this requirement, but in response to the lawyer's question, Gacy said, "Can't this wait? I'm busy." The lawyer persisted, and Gacy finally said he was fine, then hung up. The master manipulator thought he could outsmart everyone, but his time was up.
All right, and that is the deal with that one, guys. I have more for you here in a minute. This is interesting. This is where you get to meet John Wayne Gacy, guys. The master manipulator, as it was said. Quite an interesting scenario, to say the very least.
Painted this image of me that
Hold on, sorry guys, to make sure that you guys understand everything being said.
Like I strolled down the streets and stalked young boys and slaughtered them. Kind of like you can see my schedule, my work schedule. You know damn well that I was never out there.
Well, you were indicted, convicted, and sentenced on 33 counts of homicide. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I was going to ask you, insofar as sound goes, if I'm down with my head, does that hurt your sound quality?
No, it's okay. Just don't try not to move around too much. Breaking the sound.
I'm going to break the song. The one of the lead-in is to, as you know, you were at 1978.
Yeah.
You were president.
Yeah. Okay, that's where I'd like to start. I'd like to go kind of.
I
just like to go through the generalities. Maybe talk about the background of the thing, the original case.
Bleeping of the language, I will watch the language.
John just kind of slip into.
Well, I call it as I see it. Some people can't understand that. All right, so whenever the hell they're ready.
Now, give me kind of just an overview of the business that you eventually established, the construction work. Is this self-funded, the construction and maintenance work?
I started doing painting, and then I started doing wallpapering and decorating. And then inside of 3 years, PDM, which is painting, decorating, and maintenance, was doing $1 million a year.
And that was,
I only had 4 employees.
And that was the business you were in at the time of your arrest.
That's correct. PDM in 1974 became a corporation, and then I owned PDM Contractors Corporation. I owned PDM Plumbing, PDM Concrete, and PDM Decorating.
Mm-hmm.
And then I branched off with another partner into Rafco Construction.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we were doing strictly drugstores.
Mm-hmm.
John?
Now, they did not search the house at that time and look through the house?
No. According afterwards, they're claiming that they came to the front door of the house, knocked on the door, and then I hid from them.
Why didn't you let them in at that time when they knocked at the front door?
There was no way I could have heard them. I was way in the back of the house, in the rec room, on the telephone. When they finally walked around the side of the house, I could look out the picture window, see them there, because I was on the phone, and they could see me clearly too, sitting on the couch on the telephone, because I was talking to my sister in regards to a death in our family. So I told her that I would call her back, got up, went to the door, and he introduced himself as Colton Jack and Pickell, and they wanted to come in and talk to me about Robert Peace. And I told him that I had not had any conversation with him, but I said, if you want to talk to me, then come back there. And they wanted me to come down to the police station. Okay, well, I didn't have time because I was doing work for the county and stuff like that. Went into the police station finally on the next day. After this was after Colton Pickell were at the house. And give me an account of my whereabouts. The thing of it is that and that same day, they held me there for 9 hours. And while holding me there for 9 hours, they executed a search warrant. The first search warrant was executed on December 13th. That is the search warrant where they claimed they went through the house looking for Robert Peace. It was written up to be looking for Robert Peace, and Robert Peace wasn't there.
The police had focused on you as being suspect in the missing boy, and eventually...
well, they were following me around, constantly. On December 13th, I had made a statement to the police department, and from that date forward, they had me under surveillance. The only trouble is that the Mickey Mouse way they were doing it, they had 2 cars following me day and night, and they had trouble keeping up with me, so I used to go out to the car in the morning and tell them where I was going, so in case I got lost. Because at the time I was doing 5 construction jobs in 5 parts of the city. So in essence, I was all over the place. But this was like Keystone Cops trying to follow me around.
There's that one photograph of you and Rosalind.
Yeah, this Rosalind card. Well, the Secret Service tried to cover it up and said, well, we don't know how we got into the picture. Hell, I was in charge of the reception. I had to stand at the door and let them know which politicians were allowed in and which ones weren't. The thing of it is, but the Secret Service wanted to cover up and make it sound like that I had no business there. I was cleared and I was with Secret Service at the time and setting up the parade route and everything. They used to set up the parades for the Polish Alliance. And then for 3 years in a row, I had set up the parades to run. And, you know, that's a big feat, getting 20,000 Polish people to go in one direction at one time. The subdivision where the Somerdale house is located is built on a clay field. And when it rained, the rain would come down from both ends. It would flood from one house to the other. The crawl space would fill up with water. In 1976, I asked a landscaper, I said, what do you do for the sour odor of clay? And he said, spread white lime, just regular masonry lime. On the ground, he said it'll sweeten up the clay and you won't have that odor. Sort of like what charcoal does in filtering things. That's why the lime was spread in the crawl space.
How much lime was spread down there eventually?
I think 700 or 800 pounds of it. The first search warrant was executed on December 13th.
Wow.
However, what is strange is you had 20 trained officers that came into that house, supposedly went down in the crawl space, crawled around. There was no mounds of dirt, there was no odor, there was no nothing. I never feared anybody going down the crawl space. The clowning was relaxation for me. I enjoyed entertaining kids. Like some people are, you know, they unwind in different ways, either going out drinking or that. I could put on clown makeup and I was relaxed. And I enjoyed doing it. It was only twice a month a day.
This was not used then for a lure to draw kids to you?
No, we would visit different hospitals and entertain the children there. And we didn't entertain them with handcuffs or anything like that. All we used was balloon animals and small toys and stuff like that. But we also did parades. And in the summertime, like on 4th of July, I used to be in 4 parades in one day. I've always told people when I got into clown makeup, I regressed into childhood. It was fun being a clown because you could be yourself or just let yourself go and act a fool. You could be slapstick and funny and have a good time. That's why I always enjoyed clowning. Clowning has taken a bad name because of what they've used in my case.
On a historical note, your Iowa conviction goes back to what year was that?
1968.
68. And what was, just in a nutshell, you know, without getting in too deeply, what was the basis of the Iowa conviction?
The basis of it was a sodomy conviction. It's the only thing I ever was sentenced to was a sodomy conviction. They're claiming that the state representative's son, who was on the other party, he claims that he was sexually abused by me. And in essence, he was blackmailing me for it. Now, what it boiled down to was oral copulation. And it was consensual. I moved to Waterloo, Iowa. I was honored as Man of the Year because besides working full time, I also, you know, I was a chaplain for the JCs and also ran the membership campaign. And of course, we used pornography. We had stag shows, and that's how we increased the membership from 150 to 400 members in that JC chapter. We were dealing with porno films, and we had a girl set up in a room in that. So it was, you know, the thing to do. We were boosting membership from it. So nobody said a word about it. At the time, this young individual made the charge at me. He was blackmailing me. He wanted more and more money. He said, look, I give you a blowjob. Now you got to pay for this. I said, go see your father. He wasn't getting along with his father. But they came down heavy on me.
How about your dad, John? You had mentioned that you could never really please him, that he had talked of you.
And I did not hate my dad. I didn't hate my dad either.
But you did have a hard upbringing with him, did you not?
My dad came from the old country, limited education, but he was a good provider and with strong will and strong views. He was also an alcoholic, sorry to say.
Was he abusive? Did he strike out at you?
When he drank, he was almost like a different person. My dad struck all of his children all the time. Yeah.
When you paroled out, where did you establish your residency?
I was under the interstate compact. I was paroled back to Illinois.
Mm-hmm. And you went to Springfield first, did you not?
No. Directly to Chicago because
Chicago.
I had a job working at Bruno's restaurant. That was a requirement of interstate compact transfer. You had to have a job and a place to stay. I moved in with my mother in the condominium. My dad had just passed away, so I lived with my mother and worked at Bruno's as a chef. When I first got out on parole, for the next 2 years, I stayed with Bruno's restaurant, and I worked for them. But on the side, I used to go in at 4 in the morning and get off at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And to me, that was too short of a day, not enough work. So I started doing odd jobs painting. And I found that on the weekends, the afternoons and the weekends, I was making more money than I was as a chef, even though I was getting 12 something an hour. I borrowed $600 from my mother, and through odd jobs, I left the chef business. I owned PDM Contractors. PDM was able to work 52 weeks out of the year, while most construction companies shut down for the winter. I never had time to shut down because I don't.
That's one of the things that blew my mind too with this guy is that PDM construction company that he put together was like super successful. This dude was loaded. Okay, he made money like you wouldn't believe, and it wasn't enough. He had to go do these things that he was doing still. What's up, Brian? Good to see you, brother. Thanks for joining us tonight. A little different than what we normally do, but it's good to see you here, bro. Right. And he was, the thing is, PW, he was a very well-liked person. He was very prominent in his community. Everybody liked him, except, of course, his victims, which, you know, we can understand that. So, but yeah, I just could not get over the fact that he was so successful. I mean, he had work ethic that you couldn't believe. I'm jealous, Brian. I'm jealous. I love that stuff. So that being said, you would think in most cases, somebody that is that busy, that is that successful, that has that kind of money would be able to find some. That tells you the sociopathic balance in his mind, how serious it was, how deep it went. You know what I mean? And just saying, you know, I am single. We're remain as long as the world stays away and married to a crazy dope with kids. We've all had crazies in our lives, guys. I was married to a creature for 9 years. I still don't understand it, but I got 3 wonderful children from that creature. So we do. You know what I'm saying?
Waiting list. Our business was growing at that rapid rate. That Summerdale house was rented to PDM Contractors. And like the living room was the front office. The dining room of that house was like a boardroom because it was an 8 by 10-foot table.
Yes, that is very good. I agree with you,
boardroom for meetings.
John, the media has called you a homosexual killer. What is your position on homosexuality?
You know what? What was I gonna say? That's right, Daisy. We did. I got full custody of my kids, which is unheard of in the state that I live in, for the father to get full blown custody. It just doesn't happen usually, but I did. And I raised them all, and they are good. Red says, not all of us. I love you, Red. I love you. Genes run deep. Yeah, they do. That's a fact. Dude, you're a trip.
Sexuality.
I have nothing against it. I'm an outspoken liberal. I don't care for the labeling. I don't care for any labeling for that fact.
Do you claim homosexuality?
No, I would definitely not be homosexual. I have nothing against what they do, and I don't deny that I've engaged in sex with male.
See, that is something that has always bothered me. I read that in the book that I read about him too. He would not claim any kind of homosexual lifestyle or any tendencies. I am definitely not homosexual, but I engage in sex with males. I mean, okay. Thank you, Pink. I appreciate that. And thank you. That's a fact, Nikki. I don't quit at nothing. So, but anyway, that part there, guys, it just doesn't get it. You know, it doesn't make sense there. Yeah, right, Red. His clown did. That's it. His clown was homosexual. So be it. Flipping psycho.
I'm bisexual.
You're bisexual?
Right. My purpose is women, and I've been married enough times and have children, and I see nothing wrong with it. My dad had conservative values. If you're out after midnight, you're up to no good. My dad did not believe it. If you're out after dark and you didn't leave a phone number, you were up to no good. So I think that's why I tended to go that way more, just to be the opposite of him. I was married twice, and just because I didn't get along in the marriages, my marriages went down the drain only because I was a workaholic, working 7 days a week in that. There was 12 keys out to the house.
12 sets of keys?
12 sets of keys. Anybody working for PDM contractors had a set of keys.
His second wife, it's been documented that his second wife left him because she found male on male pornographic material in the home and things that were going on that she, as I told you guys, he did a lot of these things right around his family. His basement area, he would drug these guys, bring them in, do what he's doing right there. The wife walked in a few times and seen certain things she shouldn't have seen. And you know what I mean? So that's why the second marriage broke. The first one, I don't know. I could not find that, but I do know the second one. That's why.
Keys for the house. So you could come and go when you wanted. And of course, my neighbors would keep me informed. They would inform me, God, while you were out of town, they must have been partying all night there.
Who is Rossi?
Michael Rossi was an employee of PDM.
Mm-hmm. And how old was he at the time? Who was he?
He was 20 years old. Insofar as being bisexual, if I wanted to engage in sex, Rossi and Cram were willing to go down on me anytime I wanted to, providing they were given stuff.
Now, when the search warrants were effected in your case, they did find an awful lot in the crawl space of your home, did they not?
Well, yeah, I had offered to sell him the house because I thought there was nothing down in the crawl space.
Yeah.
I had never had any qualms about him going down in the crawl space.
Well, how many bodies were actually located on the property and where?
To my understanding, there was a total of 29 bodies or 28 bodies were found on the property. 26, 27 of them under the house.
And the rest?
One was under the driveway, one was under the garage. So that makes a total of 29.
Okay. Now, from the standpoint of the arrest, when you were arrested in this matter,
It's snowballed.
It's snowballed. Okay. What was the date of that arrest? Do you recall?
December 22nd, 1978 is when I was arrested. The rope trick is not the way I've described the rope trick is it's nothing more than a tourniquet. And I had explained it to them. I even demonstrated it to them. It would cut off the air. So if you're going to kill somebody, you just put it on their neck and twist it 3 times or 4 times or whatever till the person stopped moving.
And you took him where?
Out on the I-55 bridge.
And that's where. How was he?
Welcome, Ms. Michelle Epple. Good to see you tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Okay. There was no big special deal on it. I couldn't get down in the crawl space that easy, and then I had to bum back to begin with. You got to crawl on your belly to move around in the crawl.
Thank you, Miss Brandy.
There was no way
guys,
on any of the digging down.
Real quick, just to let you know, this channel is 100% crowdfunded, guys. That's how I can come out here and do these things for and with you guys, because of you guys. So anybody that would want to donate to support the channel to keep me going to help pay these bills, there's the links for the PayPal, Venmo, and the Cash App, and it is so very much appreciated. And again, like I said, it keeps me coming to see you guys. What's up, Popper, my brother? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight, bro. Enjoy your chocolate pudding, Brian.
I had enough trouble just getting down there. Gregory Godsick, let's see, number 4. Gregory Godsick had come to work for me in according to this, 1976. He came to us through Taft High School through a program. He had worked for Republic Lumber Company, and then he came to work for us. Now, I'm not the monster image that's been portrayed of me. And the only way you can make a monster image is to make it look like I stalked the streets and picked up altar boys off the street. You know, they want to make them look like innocent babes in the woods, and I was swatting them like flies. My encounters were always by happen chance. If you pull up at a stoplight and there's somebody standing there waiting for a bus, if you give them a ride, if you ask them whether, do you get in anything or you want drugs or something like that, that's how it happened. Always happen chance encountered.
A number of 3 or 4 psychiatrists, psychologists interviewed.
I had 13 of them. There was 6 for the defense and 7 for the state.
Yeah. What was the
state
position
doctor
of the defense psychiatrists? What did they feel your problem was? What did they come up with from the standpoint of
border? What the hell is it? God, I can't remember offhand. Borderline personality, antisocial behavior. I don't see how anybody can be antisocial when you were involved with the public as much as I was.
How about the multiple personality issue?
Oh, the multiple personality came out of Dr. Reifman and Hartman. These 2 clowns from the county there. They came to see me the first time. I said, "You want to talk to John Wayne Gacy, the politician, the clown, the family man, or the businessman?" The next day, I see it in the newspaper. Gacy has 4 personalities. I think one of the headlines said that was a homosexual mass murder, confessed mass murder. There is no confession. And we offered, I offered as much as $10,000 if you can produce a confession where I confess to a crime. The time that I was interrogated by the police officers, there was no stenographer, there was no tape recording, there was no videotaping. Nothing was ever taken down, yet everywhere you'll see there's 5 confessions by John Wayne Gacy. Now, if I confessed to something, then why wasn't it videotaped? Why wasn't it recorded? Why wasn't a stenographer brought in, had it written up, and had me sign it? There is no confessions in this case. What I did not know about this insanity defense is that in the state of Illinois, when you plead not guilty by reason of insanity, you're saying that you committed the crime, but that you were insane at the time. So it's not a question of innocent or guilt anymore. What they're trying to do is your whole trial now becomes an insanity trial where you're to decide whether a person is sane or insane.
John, how about Tim McCoy, the last one of the 5 that you say you have personal knowledge of?
Tim McCoy, even though he's the last one, he's the first one.
He's the first one, actually.
Right.
The first of the 33.
Tim McCoy was the first one, and Tim McCoy's name wasn't put on him until 1988. Prior to that, he was known as Unknown Number 9, and he was buried by me in the crawl space. That's the only knowledge that I have of it.
What was the circumstances of that?
He was killed in the house in self-defense.
And who killed him then?
I stabbed him.
Yeah, and it was an issue of self-defense. Why was he in the process of assaulting you, or what?
He was coming at me with a knife. I just took the knife away and twisted it in his hand, and that's what killed him.
Crawl space.
Right, and if you notice, he's under concrete.
Did you bury any of the others in the crawl space?
No, I had nothing.
Why is it that your first one is there, and then 20 some others are buried down there as well? Did somebody know that you had done this with the first one, giving them an ID?
More than likely, when drinking and getting high with the others, yeah.
Admitting it to them. So you feel others then followed your suit in using this as a burial ground?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Do you hear this, guys? This is crazy. I mean, he still denied it all the way till the day he died that he did that. Had no idea they were there. It kills me.
Just want to highlight on John Zick. They want to make such an issue over John Zick and his disappearance. I think he was killed for his car personally.
And your personal knowledge of the Zick case then is
my personal knowledge of the Zick case is that I had come home and Zick and Rossi were at the house. I had a few drinks. I went to bed. When I woke up the next morning, Rossi was sleeping on the couch and Zick was dead on the floor. I went about my own business and he was gone later on.
And where did he go? Where did he end up?
I assumed he ended up in the crawl space.
Did you see him being transported down there?
No, wasn't present. Didn't do the transporting.
But when he was dead on the floor?
He was dead on the floor, yes.
And did you have a conversation with anybody about that?
No. In other words, I just kept my mouth shut because I didn't want to get involved. My idea was just stay out of it.
John, let's step back to your childhood. What was your state of health as a child?
At the age of 10, I was told I had a enlarged bottleneck heart. Okay, and so I had a tendency to pass out a lot.
How about childhood illnesses? Did you have accidents rather? Any sort of
I was
injuries or accidents?
When I went to the other vocational school, when I first went to vocational school, I got hit with a park swing in the side of the head, caused a mastocyte.
At what age was that? Approximately
14, I believe.
Got hit with a swing? Were you unconscious?
Yeah, I was taken to a medical clinic. That was at the time. That's when I started seeing that I had epilepsy.
Did you have any episodes of
seizures? Yes, seizures were. According to the doctor, they claimed that when I have an epileptic seizure, I had 800 times my own strength, or 800 pounds of strength.
Had you ever been sexually abused by anybody?
At the age of 9, there was a contractor who was building a house next door, and he used to pick me up and take me for rides, and always wanted to show me wrestling holds with always putting my head in between his legs. But at the time, I did not look at it as sexual. He was showing me wrestling holds where my head was always constantly pinned between his legs or under his legs. I was 19 when I ran away, and that was in 61. I went to Las Vegas for 3 months, took my car and left.
Yeah.
I worked for Powell Mortuary, being the night man picking up bodies at the hospitals and stuff for them. I worked as a night man only. I did have nothing to do with the bodies. All this talk that I slept with the dead ones or had sex with dead bodies, there is no truth to any of that.
You did live in the mortuary.
I lived in a mortuary, yes, but not in the embalming room. I mean, they make it sound like I slept in the crypts with them. And I never climbed into a coffin or anything like that. That is so damn ridiculous. It's the same thing. The contention is that I slept all night with Robert Peace. If you want to say I slept in the same house with a dead body, okay, fine, I'll buy that. But in the same room, no. And besides, the dead won't bother you. It's the living you got to worry about. I felt things were going to work out because I knew that I didn't do the killing, and I thought it would come out in the trial. But Amaranthi, with this insanity defense, and again, you can call it my ignorance of the law. It's like I explained in a letter to Chief Justice William Clark. The evidence based is on the theory that the more sensational the case is, the more crazier it sounds, the insanity defense would work. And I still think it was stupid. I think that they did a disservice to me and they did a disservice to the victim. You know what people don't understand is I feel I was wrongfully convicted for 33 murders, and it was only because of sensationalism and ego. The Des Plaines police did a sloppy investigation. This is, I mean, it may not be the correct way of wording it, but the thing of it is that they had other suspects and they had tunnel vision in to say, it's Gacy's house. It's easier to put everything on Gacy.
Hey, your paintings have improved over the years. I think we've seen some.
I think I learned from each one of them.
Yeah.
I guess it's the same reason why I relate to Michelangelo, because he was a workaholic, and Leonardo da Vinci. You know, people always ask me who my favorite artists are and why. And I didn't know that Michelangelo was homosexual. It doesn't make no difference to me. He was a workaholic. He was a sculptor. He was a painter and did a lot of other things. Da Vinci was an inventor in that. And of course, in my life, I've done painting, decorating, wallpapering. I've done mural work, you name it. As you know, I'm a bug about record keeping.
Mm-hmm.
All of my business records confirmed where I was, who I was with, what hotel I stayed at, what meals I ate. Everything was in the files. And all of those files on December 29th of 1978 were confiscated by the Des Plaines Police Department. And those files there alone could have proven that I wasn't in Illinois when 16 of these murders, when they finally set the dates as to when these murders occurred.
Now, you did say that you never painted yourself as an innocent babe in the woods.
We're going over the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm not going to go into
basically, no. But I mean, the point is if you feel that you're not covering up your part of the crimes, but at the same time you open up the thought that others were involved, would you be willing to cooperate with law enforcement people today to avail, say, the materials that you have amassed and to more or less pursue, if in fact there are others that are on the streets that have been involved in these murders? Would you be willing to cooperate and to assist to pursue that to the ends of bringing others to justice? Would you be willing to do that?
I got no qualms about that, but what I don't understand is why wasn't it done to begin with, Bob? The thing of it is, they want you to believe that I alone committed these murders, and I had nothing to do with the murders of anyone.
If anybody was involved, then how many people are we talking about besides yourself?
We believe there was 4 people involved, and that would be Michael Rossi, David Cram, Philip Paskey. Here we've got a Philip Paskey who had a newsletter going out of the Cook County Jail. And here he is involved with a guy named John Norman. And John Norman was running Boys for Hire. They were making snuff films with young boys. To me, they were pimping them off. They were selling them. There was a crossover when we checked into John Norman's background that he goes all the way back to the early 70s, involved in, he ran the Norman Foundation. He ran Epic International and the Odyssey Foundation out of Dallas, Texas. These were
this was something else that killed me too. He went as far as to start his own investigation with his attorneys, trying to find and prove the people that was doing this, and has a whole thing full of records about that whole investigation, knowing that he did this. I mean, what? The cockiness is what gets me. I think it's insanity.
Where wealthy men could hire young boys for sexual.
Hey, what's up, Paladin?
Have you ever met Norman? You had any contact with Norman?
I told you you could come in here, brother.
A current picture of him, and therefore I'd have to say no. Phil Paskey may have been with him at one time or another, because see, again, I came home from out of town at times, and Phil Paskey would be at the house drinking beer or something like that. David Cram is the one that brought Phil Paskey in, because Cram, when he didn't want to do nothing, he got a hold of this guy. He said, well, this guy can get you somebody for sex. I have a lot of things that I've forgotten that I can't remember. For instance, I can go back to my childhood and stuff.
Very possible, right?
I can go into the 70s, and there are a lot of things I can't remember. The same thing with the victims. I've looked at all of, I don't know if you notice here, we got pictures of every one of the victims here. And believe it or not, for the last 12 years, I've studied these photos of these victims. And there is no, we have a shot of all of the victims together here. And
welcome, Miss Amy. Buenas noches to you as well.
Never met them. And we've gone over this more than once. They're just names and faces. And when you look at them, the thing of it is, we took it a step further. We went into their backgrounds. I wanted to know where they were at, what schools they attended, who they hung out with, and what kind of activities they were into. And that's what we dug up on each one of the victims. But still, there is no association. None of them never worked for me. None of them, they never went to any places that I ever hung around, because I didn't hang around that many places unless you were involved in politics or if you were involved in clowning, then I might have ran into you. But there's no way I could have run into any of them. They've got all that jewelry that doesn't belong to the victims. They've got the 2 clown suits that don't belong to the victim. Just like I consider myself the 34th victim, I consider the families victims as well, because they did not get justice from the shoddy investigation all the way down to. As I told you, when the FBI first came in to check on me, you said that you were kept out of the case back in '78, and that was only because of egos. They did not want a professional coming in and doing an investigation. So they did their sloppy investigation, let it slide that way. You see, everybody was so excited about the large, massive case, and everybody was looking with their egos as to how they could close this thing up. And you know, the only one that they really hurt, you've had the victim's family vent all their hostility towards me, and they think I'm the monster that killed their son or took out their son and stuff like that. When in fact, most of them don't even have the remains of their own sons. And you know, that's another thing everybody misses from this, is that the victims' families are not aware that in a lot of the cases, they don't even have the remains of their own sons, because Dr. Stein never turned over the whole body, and they took the heads off of each one of the victims. So when you turn over the remains to a loved one's family, they don't have the whole body. What do you actually feel that my case has been thoroughly investigated?
I think, John, in a case like this, and I find this in many major cases, that things are at the time of the case are done rather hastily because of the fact that there's pressure on.
Yeah, but that's a political answer. I know.
Yeah.
I don't want a political answer from you. I want a basic answer. Do you actually think that the investigation of my case has been done right?
I believe in your case that there should have been more focus on others, as there should have been others checked out a little more thoroughly. That's the belief I've developed over these years. Yeah, I just think that we're kind of wrapping it up here. I think we accomplished something today. Certainly, we put something down on tape that has not been said.
No, that's interesting to me. You know what I mean? That's really interesting to me, to be honest with you, because backing up to what Red said, who knows? Maybe he didn't do all of the murders that he did, because that's why he swore up and down he didn't do this, he didn't do that. He did have multiple people living in the house with him. And this other guy, this investigator, said what he just said. That's kind of interesting to me. I read that in the book too. And there was another guy he talked to that said the same thing to him, that he feels that they should have looked around a little bit more instead of putting it all on him. I think that's real interesting, folks.
My feeling as a career law enforcement officer is that if John Wayne Gacy is guilty, then he should be punished. If John Wayne Gacy has others involved, then they should be brought in. They should be punished. Basically, I believe in total investigation and total justice, and that's really what I've been looking for all along.
A little bit, yeah, Daisy, just a little bit too late. But that's crazy to think about. What if they were wrong? You know what I mean? What if they were wrong? Can you imagine that? I've thought about that myself. You are absolutely correct, Red. It's interesting to think of it that way too, you know. But it's just like, what if? You know, that what if is insane, guys. It is. It really is insane. It's like, how many licks does it take to get? That's right. That is correct. No, it wouldn't me either, Daisy, because we didn't have the forensics capabilities that we had back then. We didn't have the DNA capabilities, any of that stuff back in those days. You know what I'm saying? And I think that if that were to go through nowadays, thank you, Heather. You know, there's a lot of people sitting. I'm not saying that he was innocent, folks, but there's, oh wow, Daisy. There's another snort coming. There's a lot of people sitting in prison that are innocent, guys. I mean, there really is. I read into something called the Innocence Program, based out of the state of Ohio, where I live at. They have one. I've been told they're all over the United States, but there are so many prisoners, inmates that are sitting in prison right now on a multitude of different types of cases, guys. A lot of sex crimes, murders that were just kind of people were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Glad to hear that, PW. But it's insane to think of how many innocent people are having their lives ruined because, the investigation was not done correctly, or there were not the right resources for the type of investigation and things like that, What did you say there, Nikki? Imagine, oh my God, imagine all toys, criminals spill. What? All those criminals coming up. Oh, yeah. Well, it's crazy. It really is crazy. I know of somebody that's in prison right now that I know for a positive fact that is innocent, and it was a sex case. Okay, I know for a fact that person's innocent because I knew and saw the evidence that was put out for the case. We tried to help with it, obviously, and there is no case. There was no case. It was all hearsay, word of mouth, and he was convicted. He was charged, convicted, and put in prison for 13 years. And he was young, very young, okay? There was not one shred of evidence. It was word against word. That is it. Word against word. I know for a fact that the innocent, because of the dates, the time, the person was with me at the time that he was, accused of the crime and blah, 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 so on and so forth. It's insane, guys. It really is. Now, there are people that are claiming to be innocent that are sitting in prison that are not, that they need to be there or worse. I'll be honest with you. But it does happen, you guys. Thank you, Miss Heather. That's a fact. Guys, if you are interested in joining the movie nights that we're going to be doing through Discord here, become a member, become part of the family, and you will have full access to the movie night scenario, guys. It's going to be a good time, I think. I'm excited. I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait, to be honest with you. Welcome, Jody Walter. It's good to see you. Right. Hearsay's a big thing, okay? It is. And I'll tell you right now. I'm just saying, I know you don't buy it most times, so if you do, he must be. That's right. That's exactly it, because you guys know how I am. I don't care if it was my sister. I don't have a brother, but I was going to say my brother. If it was my mother that did something like this, if I know the truth and I know that she did it, I'm not gonna lie for her. She's going to prison or whatever the thing is. Okay. If I knew that my mother, if I knew that my mother unjustly murdered somebody, okay, other than self-defense, one of my kids, for instance, if that happened, and there was no excuse for it, there was no nothing, then I'll be the first one to tell, hey, they're here, they're right here, come get them. But at the same time, I've looked into this innocence thing, guys, because of this person that I know that did this, friend of mine. Okay, there are so many. The statistics are ridiculously high. People that are sitting, and we just had somebody here in Ohio that was released after doing 35 years in prison because they were able to do a whole DNA thing, okay, that they couldn't do when that person was convicted back in the day. And he was completely innocent. And all that they did, there's a lawsuit now pending against the state, okay? But at the same time, he's probably going to lose a lawsuit because there was no way to prove the circumstantial evidence pointed at him. He was in the wrong place, the wrong time. He fit a description, and the sad thing is that he's a black man, okay? That's where I don't like the stereotypical, descriptive things that go on. And did 35 years, folks. 35 years. And here's the thing. because the prosecution still believes that it was him, but it was proven that it wasn't. They still think that it was him, and therefore he was just released. What is we? This is May, April, in March. Okay, after 35 years, he has to wear an ankle bracelet, I think, until next March, and then he will be completely off. And the prosecution was looking at trying to find another way to prove the guilt on him, but the DNA completely matched to somebody else altogether, and that person's deceased, so there's nothing they can do about it. Okay, and that's what I'm saying about our judicial systems, guys. It's sick. It's sad in some ways. What are you talking about, Heather? I just received a prison call before the live stream. They get personal iPads in Cali. They get them around here too. That friend of mine I was telling you that went into prison, he has one. Yeah, they have iPads that they can make phone calls on. They can watch TV, certain TV shows and stuff, he told me, and stuff like that. So yeah. Yes, it does, Brandy. Yes, it does. We have a judge that works in our common pleas court, okay, that the judge that put this person away that I'm telling you about. When he was elected into office, he made a comment, okay? This made me sick to my stomach. It still does. Because to me, it sounds like he's taking the judicial system and making it a game. But the comment was that I will give out 1,000,000 years before I retire from the bench. It's almost like a challenge to him. And everybody that he's tried in court has gone to prison, period. There's nobody. In the bigger cases, there's nobody that's gotten off for anything other than jail time. Prison time, I should say. It's insanity. And people have looked at it. People have talked about him and looked at his cases. And from what I understand right now, he's actually being investigated because of that scenario. So, it is what it is. But it's just sad that, there's people that are walking free that have committed crimes that are still free. And there's people that are sitting in prison that are absolutely innocent that shouldn't be. It's just screwed up. I would tell if it were my mom too. I'd fear for life and watch all the weird different personalities. Had to be noticeable, right? Yeah. And that's a thing, folks. That's another scary thing too, is we don't like John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy, okay, probably Jeff Dahmer. We could walk the streets with these people, go to the grocery store with these people, work side by side with these people, and never know who, and be friends with these people, not knowing who these people really are. That's the scary thing. I'll be honest with you. That is scary. Thank you, Heather. For anybody interested, the social media accounts that we have that link with this, we have our TikTok, our Instagram, our Facebook page. Please check them out if you should choose. Can't go wrong, guys. Can't go wrong. I appreciate it so very much, by the way. We have someone on our reservation who committed a double murder and hasn't got caught yet. See? That's what I'm saying. Isn't that crazy, though, Jody? That is completely crazy to me. All right, folks. We need to do the deed. It is scary. That is very scary. Because you never know when they're going to do it again, if they're going to do it again. All right, guys. Before I do this, one of these movies is going to be Donnie Brasco again. We're going to try it. But the other one, does anybody have any suggestions to go towards Monday's movie before we do the whole thing? A Hollywood movie put out that is based on a true crime, true story. Does anybody have anything that they want to throw out there as a reference or a referral or whatever you want to call it? Suggestion. There we go. That is horrible, Jody. That's absolutely horrible. I'm sorry that you have to go through that. It's got to be scary. Red said, yup, yup. What do you got, Red? What do you got? Throw it at me. You guys don't ever do it. Red, it's called I Farted. Come on, dude. Welcome back, Paladin. The chat's moving quick. Shit. Why is it not moving in this over here, though? That's weird. Hold still. Oh, it's moving that way. Okay. Nothing. I'm going. The chat over here stopped moving, then start moving. All right, Nikki. So I knew you would say something about Manson, of course. We can try it. We can try it. So you're talking about the movie Helter Skelter, the true story based on that? Yeah, my YouTube chat is like scrolling. I don't know why it's moving like it is. And this one over here is nuts. Don't worry about me, guys. I'm just nuts. Here we go. Okay. All right. So we got Helter Skelter. We did Monster already, Laughing Stock. You can always go back and check it out. The Eileen Werno story. We did that one. We've done quite a few. We're at episode 28 right here today, which is a great story and a great movie too, by the way. I love Helter Skelter. Yeah, Nikki's got a picture of Charles Manson hanging on her wall, folks. She's got just a little bit of a liking for his history. Absolutely, Michelle. All right, then we'll throw those two up. Then we'll try that. Helter Skelter and Donnie Brasco. Let's see what we got. Mikey wants Brasco so bad. Actually, I do too because I like that story. But I'm happy either way. It'd be cool if it was, though, wouldn't it, Michelle? It's a great movie. I like anything Tim Burton did. And we're off. Black Mass. Ooh, damn, Laughing Stock. That's a good one. We're going to have to throw that out for maybe next week. Then I love that one. Well, damn. That hit 100% already? There's no way you guys voted on that fast. No, I didn't think so. Okay. There's a link right there, guys. Miss Heather just put up. That'll show you everything that we've done already. All the way up to this episode tonight. That is a great one, actually, Daisy. That's a really good, really good suggestion, Laughing Stock. I love that. That's going to go into my list, too. That may go on next week's poll, because I really did like that one. That's crazy. Crazy movie. 89%. Somebody's voting on this one. Oh, it's quick, folks. Very quick. And the result is 88% said yes to Helter Skelter, and 11% said nerp. All right, let's try Mr. Brasco. Donnie Brasco. And we're off. Vote away, everyone. Yeah, Black Mass is definitely going on my list for next week. For sure. What not Black Mass? I actually do not, Miss Nikki. Sorry, no offense. I never have. He gets on my nerves. He always has. I think this is only my opinion. I don't want to offend anyone. And please don't be offended, because I know that you really enjoy the story and stuff. I think that he was very intelligent, okay? Therefore, I think that he faked a lot of what he did to get the attention that he wanted, and it worked. So, you know, I'm not a fan of Manson's. I never have been. I just can't. He irritates the shit out of me. I'm sorry. We will have to sedate you if Charlie is chosen orphan. Yeah, probably. She will be hop, skip, and jumping all over the place over that one. Yeah, I've tried to get into the Manson family thing, and I've read a lot about it. Don't get me wrong. I did a ghost hunt at the prison that his mother was at, the Moundsville Reformatory, West Virginia State Penitentiary. And they have the letter mounted there where he wrote the West Virginia State Penitentiary's warden, begging him basically to be moved there to be closer to his mother, and they wouldn't have him. They would not have him there. Hold on a minute, guys. I don't know if we can talk about it, Nikki. That doesn't matter. Either way, I just don't care for him. But I'm still going to do it, you know. I have no problems doing it. Omar Mateen. There's just something about him that irritates me. Like his voice, the actions that he had, that he did. You know, something about him. There was a lot that were at Alcatraz, Michelle. I want to do one night, guys. It's not really a true crime like story per se, but I have a huge liking for the story behind Alcatraz itself, the prison itself. The movie Escape from Alcatraz that Clint Eastwood was in. That movie is one of my favorite movies ever. I'd like to do a show on Alcatraz and its history and stuff like that, because it's a great story, guys. The way Alcatraz was built, why it was built, how it was built, and the inside workings of it. It's seriously interesting. One of these nights, though, I really, if you know, of course, with your guys' okay on it, I really want to do that and show you guys that may not know about it, the history behind it, the criminals that it housed. There were some very, very popular criminals that were in that prison, guys. Gacy struggled with self-hate for his desires. 100%, Brian. 100%. And that is where the angst and the anger came from that came out of him when he committed the murders. All right, so Red says, all right, guys, we'll do it this way. I got twos. Anybody in here that would be down for me doing a whole show one night on the history of Alcatraz and the story behind it and all that kind of stuff, put a 1 in the chat for me. Well, damn. Looks like everybody's answering already for me, but yeah, throw the ones down there. What do you mean? Are you talking to me, Red, or what are you talking about? Any movies on women killers? Eileen Wuornos. We've done Eileen Wuornos. We've done Lizzie Borden. I think that's all we've done as far as there's a few more that we're gonna do that are female, but 1 yes 1. Oh no, 100%, Nikki. I have nothing but respect for the way you view him. Okay, that's why I said I don't want to offend you, or you view his situation. I just can't stand him. Period. That's just my opinion. I'm only one person. You know what I'm saying? I don't. You know, like I said, my perspective on it after reading about him. You guys know how I am. I research everything. I read about everything. I have a passion for this type of stuff. Obviously, if I want to do a show on a damn prison, you know what I mean? You know what, Daisy, you're right. Somebody else had said something about Peter Scully too. Very interesting that it matches up to it very closely. So yeah, I read a lot about Manson at one point, Nikki. I was kind of obsessed with that story in itself, the Manson family thing, the Sharon Tate scenario, blah, 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 all that stuff. I went through all of that like for a period of like a year. Okay. And at the end of it, the outcome of it, I was just bored. I was just like, I feel like he faked it. I feel like he faked all the crazy stuff. I feel like he was way smarter than what he thought. He was very intelligent. That's the scary part. Okay. And I think that he knew what he was doing and the way he did it, which is in turn why he thought he would get away with having everybody else do the dirty work for him. And it didn't work out that way for him. That I'm kind of glad for. Right. Yeah, I don't mean it like that, guys. Don't be. I'm not saying like she loves him or something like that. She just is very interested in the history and the psychology behind Charles Manson. Is all it is. Not that she's like, I love me some Charlie Manson type shit. Oh, I've been down in the rabbit hole with him. There's nothing about him that interests me now. It's like I said, I feel like it's fake. I'm a very good observer of people, even stories I've read, you know. I think that he was a mama's boy for one, okay? And he did have psychological issues, don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. Oh, yeah, let me check this real quick before everybody takes off so that we know for a fact. Or if anybody is taking off. Brian's got to get up early, so on and so forth. 83 to 16. So that means we're doing Manson. You got your way, Miss Nikki. Helter Skelter it is, guys. Watch the movie if you haven't. Or if you can find a different version of it. There's a bunch of different movies about him, but check it out. And next Monday, we're going to be covering the true story behind Mr. Charles Manson, folks. That's the thing. And then shortly thereafter that, I want to do this whole history on Alcatraz, folks. I'm like super excited about that. I love it. I do. I really do. The architecture itself, the way that prison was built, it was so far ahead of its time. Everything, guys, it's crazy. I love it. I know a lot about that prison. I know a lot about Rikers Island in New York. There's quite a few that I've looked into that are very interesting. There's one over in Mexico that is horrifying to even think about. Well, Brian, sounds like you need to sleep, my brother. You had your pudding. It's time for bed. So, I'm sure you will, Miss Nikki. We'll talk about it. We'll see what happens. You very likely could help if you choose. Especially with that one. Thank you, Mrs. M. I appreciate you so very much. Does anybody have anything else they want to throw out there tonight? Once again, guys, I do appreciate you guys. So Monday night, guys, we're going to be going over Charles Manson. So if you want to look into it, check it out. Tomorrow morning, guys, or tomorrow early afternoon, 12:30, I will be here as we jump into we jump into that case going on in Oklahoma. The horror in Henriettville is what the title is going to be, because that's exactly what it is, guys. And as we're looking into that case, I don't want to say the word corruption, but law enforcement has dropped the ball. The prison systems have dropped the ball. All of it in that case. So we are going to be looking at that hardcore, folks, digging it out, throwing it out there, piece for piece for piece for piece, and shocking you all with the details of this case. So I hope to see you guys all here tomorrow, 12 to 12:30, along with the rest of the gang. Excuse me once again. Sorry about that. Ready to eat my Ludesta. Do your thing, Brian. Do your thing. Again, thank you, Miss Heather. There are the links, folks, if anybody should choose to use them. Other than that, guys, I think I want to say thank you all for being here tonight once again. I'm looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow, 12:30. I will be here running my mouth, as will Mama Bear, running my mouth about Oklahoma and that travesty, that horrific travesty. It just makes me sick to my stomach even thinking about it. But we're going to do it. We're going to put it out there, guys. It needs to be put out there for sure. So everybody in here, I do want you to have a amazingly awesome night, as I always say. Mystical Bandit, what's up? What's up? Well, here we go. Hang on, Dago. What are we doing? Where are we going? What's going on? That being said, guys, it is that time. Thank you all for joining me tonight. I do love you guys, each and every one of you guys, so very much for supporting the channel as you do, for being here, for hanging with us, and just for being who you guys are, guys. Don't forget to love yourselves, to love each other, because that's all we have. Once again, thank you for joining us. Anybody that may have donated to support the channel, thank you so very much for that. It is appreciated. I do love y'all. Moderators, thank you. Have a great night. And I will see you all on the other side. Bye-bye for now.